rewarding aspects of the black family, that in spite of what we have been exposed to, we have learned to be a base and we've learned to be abound. You all with me? And so we're going to do this work when we begin to look at how families begin to reconnect and begin to form their unions in spite of what we were told in the ceremonial jumping the broomstick. We may not have had the license. We may not even have had it completely sanctioned on the plantation, but we understood it within that context. Our values and what we've learned from that is the thing that we have said has withstood the test of time. Now, I'm going to do something with you all very quick. Let me have everyone stand up. We're going to do something very simple. It's a very simple activity, and it is called values voting. What values voting is that there's a series of questions that I'm going to ask you. And it's very simple. If you agree with the statement that I'm going to make, I want you to go to this side of the room. If you disagree with the statement, I want you to come to this side of the room. Okay? Let me say that again. If you agree with the statement, go to this side of the room. If you disagree with the statement, go to this side of the room. Now, I do got a rule. Whether it's 2 people in the room or 50 people in the room. You cannot persuade your mate, your child, your friend. Your goal is your value, your belief, and your opinion. No nonverbal stuff. You just move, right? So here's the first question. Men should always pay for the first date. You agree? Go to the side. You disagree? Go to that side. Men should always pay for the first date.
There's no middle?
No middle. Wonderful. So you all agree that men should always pay for the first date. Why is that,
Yes.
sir?
I think it shows leadership. I think it shows respect for the woman. I think it's from a black perspective, I think it's cultural, and I think the woman respects that.
And she respects it. Wonderful. You disagree with that. Why do you disagree with that?
I'm in the middle because I think that it all...
Well, now, hold on. I don't know middle.
No, yes, I'm saying. I'm saying, let me finish.
Okay. Take your stand first, and then you can get on the fence.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, I stand in the middle because I don't think it should matter.
Okay.
You know, I'm taking on this side here, I don't think it should be. I'm going to say we put even though if the man initiated or the woman regardless of, we put a higher standard on the man to say, well, you have to have money to take care of me. And, you know, those type of things. And money shouldn't be a matter. If love is there, love's supposed to conquer it.
Okay. Wow. Young man, you disagreed. How come? You think about that. He disagreed. He actually moved before. Is this your?
No, I'm adopting him for the day.
That's all right. He adopted for the day. Guess what? He left before she left. So he wasn't on the fence. Why you agree?
Because it's always been my belief that men should be providers. And when it comes to first dates, you should always provide for his sister.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Everybody get in the middle again. Ready for the next question? Next question is, a man that cries easily is weak. A man that cries easily is weak. If you agree, take that side. You disagree, take that side. A man that cries easily is weak. Now, you're over here. Why do you agree with that a man that cries easily is weak?
Because it shows me that he has compassion and he's empathetic.
Okay. And so a man that cries, it shows he has his passion and empathetic. Why do you disagree with that?
Well, it's exactly what you just stated.
Exactly.
Right.
Wait, hold on.
Right.
Now, hold on. You're supposed to be over here.
Right.
You're supposed to be
I said a man that cries easily is weak, and you said I agree. So that means you over here. That means
agree?
yeah. Do you disagree? Let me rephrase it. You agree that a man that cries easily is weak? Well, then you need to be on over there. You know, y'all got to get on the right team.
Come on, baby.
Because I'm
Now, see, that's interesting there because now, let me try that question again. Man that cries easily is weak. Now, you agree, right?
Yeah, not necessarily.
Why is it? Oh, wait, hold on. Y'all see how that works, right?
It's that easy word that you said. That's what.
All I said is a man that cries easily is weak.
Yeah, and then if you because he cries easy doesn't necessarily mean that he's weak.
He
But
gonna-
like you said, the way that it was easy.
Yay or nay? Yay or nay?
He talking so
You
good.
know what? Yeah, and did you move on your own?
But first I was thinking more culturally. And
All I said was a man crying easily is weak.
Right.
All right, now, y'all disagree. Why do you disagree?
Because just because a man cries, that means he's showing compassion, empathy, or he understands. He understands the situation. And just because a man cries don't necessarily mean, well, it doesn't mean he's weak at all. He's human.
All right, good, all right. Get to the middle again, here we go. Y'all see how this works? I like all your,
It's the easy, no, wait a minute.
I like all your, hold on now, I'm running this one, I got you. Here go the next question. Here go the next question.
Oh, man, the problem is.
It is better
The easy
that
thing.
it is better that small children be raised by their mothers. It is better that small children be raised by their mother. You agree? Go to this side. You disagree? Go over there. I have no neutral. It is better that small children be raised by their mother.
Can you said no neutral?
There's no neutral.
There's
You
no
gotta take your
Switzerland.
stand and then we'll talk about it.
You in the middle.
Oh,
There's no neutral. Come on now. It is better that small children be raised by their mothers. Y'all disagree, and y'all agree. Now, why do you, see now, you just,
I didn't think about that thing.
you disagree, why do you disagree?
Earlier.
Why do you disagree? Why do you disagree? Her.
Because I think men have a firm foundation, and we're so weak because we're nurturing. But they will put discipline, and some of them put fear, but I think that child needs that firm structure of the man, because we're going to always be there. We're going to always nurture. We're going to always bring them close to us, cuddle them. That's what I'm just saying. They
Okay,
need-
it is what it is.
Yeah,
Why do you disagree?
I just think that the child needs to be loved, regardless of the gender. As long as the child is loved, you will do your best to provide for the child and you do what you need to do.
These are values. These are values. Why do you agree?
I agree because when the child is young, they need nurturing and they need a bonding, and the mother provides that via oxytocin.
Okay.
So the father doesn't necessarily provide that as much as the mother, especially when they're small.
Okay. Thank you. Last question. Here we go. Last question. You ready? You ready? Now you gotta make it on over there.
We got the walking since this morning.
Okay, here's the premise. The woman is pregnant. So here's the statement. Okay, the premise, the woman is pregnant. A man has just as much say as the woman as to whether or not they should keep the child. A man has just as much say as the woman as to whether or not they should keep the child or have an abortion. Agreed? You agree that a man has just as much say so on this side? If you disagree, on this side. All right.
I'm not here right now.
Okay, now she gonna disagree.
No, that goes into stuff that I don't want to.
Well, you still have an opinion, right? So remember now, there's a difference between an opinion and a belief, right? So you might have a belief, but that doesn't mean you can't have an opinion, right? So you disagree. Why do you disagree?
I disagree because first of all, although it's two making it, the woman have to have that choice.
Okay, so you ultimately saying it's what, her body?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody hear anything different? Okay. Yes, you said ultimately you believe a man has as much say as a woman.
Especially when you bring in the factor of marriage.
Oh, now remember, see what I love about these exercises is that people will add some stuff.
Marriage.
All I simply said is a man has as much say so as a woman.
Yes, because he took part in making that child, so in the conception of that child,
Okay.
so he should have a say so.
Without him, it doesn't exist.
But I think you can get pregnant with a wet rag and some sperm, so.
Okay.
Well,
I said a man has as much say so as a woman. Okay, everybody take a seat. Wonderful job. Give yourselves a hand. Give yourselves a hand. one of the things that we recognize in this journey is that in spite of all that we endured during our captivity, what we recognize is that there are many aspects and elements of the family to this day remain strong. You all know as our enslavement of that period of time drew toward an end, that many men and women began to travel from plantation to plantation in search of their families. That it was a physical, literal restoration process that began towards the end of slavery. And what is so powerful about this scenario right here is that you'll see as Sherman's army is yet marching, this father has mounted up a horse and he has gone to several plantations to find his entire family to put them all on the horse. So here you see the dad looking forward. Here's the mom with another infant in her hand and she's looking back. Here's the child. Which way is the father child looking? Straight down. So the dad's looking ahead to the future. The child's looking in the present. And the mother's looking in the past. But yet they're all moving in the same direction. Isn't that amazing? If you can imagine, although a family may have all of its diversity and all of its different views, but yet the family is still capable of what? Moving in the same direction. So when we talk about restoration, we're saying this is what happens. Imagine if fathers today or individuals today start going from community to community. Guess what? Reclaiming and gathering their families, fixing that which was broken, all towards the effort of getting the family once again to move in the same direction. Can you imagine how powerful that would be? That's what this image is about when we start moving and making the connections. Now I need everybody to open up your book. I need you to turn to page 9. In your package you probably had a pen. Now the work that we have to do is that we have to now continue the work that our ancestors did towards the end of our enslavement of connecting the family. I can imagine the first thing that this father had to do was find out who they were and where they were. He had to assess who's still there, what do we know about them. So here's your first homework assignment. I'm going to tell you all, I'm a professor. I serve as an adjunct professor at the University of Georgia. I've also taught at Clark Atlanta University. So I love to teach, and guess what? I love to give homework. And so here's your first homework assignment, is that you're going to begin the work of what? Connecting your family. So here comes the first assessment that we're going to do in the tree. What I need you all to do right now is I'm going to give you all a minute, and when I say go, only when I say go, here's the task I want you all to do. I want you all to fill this out. Now here's the instruction. On the bottom will be you. Whenever you come to a split, the left side will always be the father, the right side will always be the mother. So if this is you, this would be your mother, your father, and this would be your mother. If I were on your father's side, this would be your grandfather and your grandmother, and this would be your great-grandfather and your great-grandmother. Y'all got me? And so the same thing in that task, it will be the same thing on the right side. Your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, and all the way through. Y'all got me? So, when I say go, no cheating, see? You see, this is why we struggle with the school system. We make some adjustments, right? So when I say go, you're going to have 1 minute to fill it out as fast as you can. Y'all got me?
Yes.
All right, so on your mark. Get set. Remember, you got 1 minute, right? On your march. Get set. On the left is the father, on the right is the mother. So your march, get set, and go. Open up your book, young man, too. And do it too. I know y'all y'all probably have some nicknames up in there. It's where your big mamas and your big daddies come in. "30 seconds. More seconds. And stop. Okay, now my first question I'm going to raise, who was able to go all the way up to the top on both sides? Now, I'm going to raise these questions, and the question I ask, I need you all to look around the room. Okay? So the first question is, who was able to go all the way up to the top on both sides? Look around. Is anyone raising their hand? Next question. How many of you were able to go all the way up to the top on your mother's side? Look around. Next question. How many of you were able to go all the way up to the top on your father's side? Look around. Next question. How many of you were able to identify both of your parents? The names of both of your parents. Look around. Next question. How many of you were able to name all the names of your grandparents? Look around. Now, here's what becomes so powerful about what you all have just seen. What you all have seen is the 2015 or the 2015 version of the impact of our enslavement and in our captivity in two ways. Number one, we are still left in the journey of having to reconnect and identify who our family members are. We lose a lot of connections because of relational issues, health issues, mental health issues, abuse, separation, adoption. We see all these things, foster care, all these things in modern day impacts this piece. So part of your homework assignment is that I need you to do like the father on that horse. And I need you to begin to ask questions about the names of the people on this chart. Here's the reason why. If you have children, if you have grandchildren, if you have nieces, and if you have nephews, you are the griot. You are the scribe. So therefore, if you lose, if you leave, you take the knowledge with you. So for many of us, we don't have the knowledge because it was never passed to us and someone took it to their grave. But that still doesn't prevent other family members from having the knowledge. You all with me? So this is the journey. So let's see, who wants to take a shot at it? Let's see how far you all can go. Who wants to take a shot at it? All right, you ready? Okay, who's this?
That's me, Carlton.
Okay, on the left?
Carlton.
Right?
Diane.
Which way you want to go?
Upright.
Mother, okay.
Don't know her father's
Put a
name.
question mark there. Put a question mark in the box.
Okay.
And who is this?
Ernestine.
Okay, which way?
Oh no, I didn't make it. I mean to the
Okay.
left.
Okay.
My father's father.
Okay, who's that?
That's question mark.
Okay.
Father's side. I
Your,
stopped right there on my
Your
mother's
great-grandfather over here, okay?
side. I stopped right there.
Right there, okay.
And my grandmother.
Okay, that's far?
That's her
Okay,
side.
good. And what about on this side?
My father's father, which was Clifford.
Okay, who's this?
Question mark.
Question mark, good. Thank you very much. You ready?
Wow.
Okay. Let's go. Who is this?
Cliff.
That's you. Okay, let's say me.
Me.
All right, good. All right. Now, there's another class. Dr. Bass is teaching an awesome class on mental health. So if you struggle to find out who this person is, I'm going to invite y'all to Dr. Bass' class, all right? And he'll work that part out, all right? So this is you, Cliff, and who is this on the left?
Alvin.
And who is this?
47.
Which way you want to go?
Up to the right.
Okay, who is this?
Don't know.
Question mark. Put a question mark in there. Who is this?
Elizabeth.
Okay. Do you want to go one more?
No.
Okay. What about on this side?
Don't know.
And here?
Mrs. D. Brown. Buckner.
Buckner? Were you going to say Mr. Buckner?
No, her name is Dee.
Oh, Dee, okay. And the rest are question marks?
Yes.
All right, put question marks there. Thank you very much. Let's see. You ready?
Sure.
Now, I want you all to observe. Now, here's the thing. As beautiful as you all are, there's a flip side to this story that I'm giving you. And that means everywhere you have a question mark, I'm telling you there is someone in your lineage that doesn't know what they produce. There's someone in their lineage that they don't know that they produced a beautiful person. You all with me? All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, who's this?
Me, Darius.
Who's this?
That's Leonard Lee. That's Arnetta maiden, or you want maternal name, married?
Either way, just give your name.
Arnetta Carter.
Okay, which way?
We can go up mom and dad either way.
Okay.
That is Charlie Carter.
And who's
That
this?
is Ella Mae Carter.
Okay, which way?
That I don't remember. That I don't know.
Okay, question marks?
Question marks, yeah.
Okay. And then, who's this?
That is Ruth McKinney.
Uh-huh.
And that is Sammy Lee.
Okay, so that's Sandy and Ruth. Okay, want to keep going?
Nope.
Question marks.
Yes.
Wonderful. Do you all see how powerful this is? You get it? I'm going to tell you this now. This can be a very uncomfortable activity for people. Because for some people, it's some of the things that you've repressed all along, or guess what? You were raised to never ask.
I do have it,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know their names.
Okay, so if you have it but you don't remember the name, put 2 question marks. Or no, we're going to put a question mark with a hash. That means I got it, but I don't remember. But if you don't know, you just don't know. Are you ready?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, here we go. Who's this?
Myself,
And who's this?
Taylor,
And this?
Katie,
Okay. Which way?
Taylor,
Okay.
my father, Shaky.
Uh-huh. Say that again. Shaky?
Shaky.
I know that's right. Go ahead, Shaky. That sounds like a ladies' man, huh? I know that's right. You tell how you doing, Shaky? It is what it is. I know Shaky has some taglines. You can't have a name like Shaky and you ain't got no tagline, you know. No Shaky saying, you know. Go ahead. And who's this?
Maggie.
Okay. And who's this?
I don't know.
Question mark?
Yes.
Okay, what about on this side?
I just know Thelma's mother and father know.
Question mark. Wonderful. Put the question marks on it. You want to take a shot? You ready? Yes. Okay. Let's take a shot. Go ahead.
Me, Angela,
Okay.
the right side, Bernice,
Okay.
Nola,
Okay.
Spencer.
Okay. And question marks. Wonderful. You all see how powerful this is? You all keep hearing me say this. But I'm telling you that on every stem is a story. So when we start talking about restoration or the work around restoration, what I'm telling you is that for every stem there is a story.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How do you restore when you can't reconnect? I can't go past really my father because I don't know that side.
Well, guess what? That side exists, right?
Yeah,
That's the beautiful part. So I'm going to tell you about it. You don't know the side, but the side exists. So if you're still on this side of the Jordan Shore, you don't know that side, but that side still exists. So then we talk about some of the work that needs to be done to what? To get to know the side. Now, I'm not talking about developing an Antoine Fisher type relationship. What I'm saying is acquiring the knowledge so that you can receive it, and when it's time to pass it down, to pass it down. You got me? So that's a tough thing. So what we're discovering right away is that restoration is a very emotional and challenging and potentially draining thing. But restoration is real. We have all types of families. Some of us have had to live with family members for a while. Some of us had family members come live with us. Right? Think about it. How many of you in this room, your family lived with someone or someone came to live with your family for some period of time while growing up? That's very African of us. That's the extended family. That's a live, breathing system that says when there's difficult times and hard times, that's what we do. Even our play brothers and sisters. who we were raised with. We've reached a point now that the media images of our families today and the people and the families in our day continue to change. And we're going to take a real quick look at some of the images of the black family. Because these images, I'm going to tell you, is what feeds our perceptions of how we see and how we understand families. Y'all with me? So we see some of these more ones that you might recognize. Anyone know that family?
Yeah, that's the House of Pain.
The House of Pain. And who was that? So Braxton, yes, these are all the different families that you see. But let's take a quick look at some of the families of the 70s and 80s. Not only that, let's also think about the music and the lyrics that went side by side with what? The shows that we watch. And when you see them synchronized, it communicated to the families in America of what family value was about. Who knows what show that is?
That's Family Matters.
Family what?
Family Matters.
Family Matters, absolutely. So you saw the family. Who's sitting in the middle?
The Father.
The father. So you learned that family matters. The title of the family is there. And we see other families. What show was this?
227.
Room 227, absolutely. They lived in a projects and apartment complex as well, but there was the father and the grandmother and the neighbors, so it was an extended family. You all see how those images were carried out? We understood these. Then we also had families that lived like in the projects in Chicago. And think about the song that went with the Evans family. Y'all remember that song? Help me out. Just looking out of the window. Help me out. Watching the asphalt roll. Come on. Thinking how it all looked hand-me-down. Come on, y'all. Good times. Keeping your head above water. Making a way when you can. Temporary layoff. Good time. Easy credit rip-off. Good time. Hanging in and charming. Good times. Ain't we lucky we got them? Do. What? Good times. Absolutely. Because we understood that even within the projects, the family still managed to have what? Good times. And that's what it was about. And when the family worked together and continued to move as a unit, the other thing that we recognize is that when all the hard work finally paid off within the family unit, something beautiful happened. That meant with all the sacrifice and they moved as a unit, the beautiful thing that began to happen is in the Jeffersons, they paid off and they signed the lease. And he finally opened up all the cleaners. And then he told his wife, let's pack it all up. They got the cab and then they began to move. And then the music came on that told the story about a black family's success from the projects to the penthouse. And in that song, what did they say? Oh, well, they're moving on up to the east side. Come on, y'all. To a deluxe apartment in the sky. Come on, y'all. Moving on up. Come on, y'all. To the east side. Come on, here we go. We finally got a piece of the pie. And what did she say? Turn up, fish don't fry in the kitchen. Beans don't burn on the grill. What? It took a whole lot of trying just to get up that hill. She said, what? Now we're up in the big leagues. Getting our turn at best. Here we go. As long as we live, you and me, baby. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Well, we're moving on up. Y'all give yourself a hand. Give yourself a hand. It's because we understood as a family unit. You all with me?
Yes.
As a family unit, we moved. And even with some of our kids, with single mothers raising their children, even when some of our kids began to act up, the family unit, even though they lived in different parts of the country, understood that sometimes when your child got out of hand, you got to send them away to another family. So what show is that? The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And when you listen to that song, he said, in West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playgrounds where I spend most of my days. Go.
Chilling out, dancing, relaxing, shooting some deep ball outside of the.
Come on,
with a couple of guys.
I'm doing good. Started making trouble in her neighborhood. I got in one little fight.
My mom got scared.
She said, you're moving with your auntie and I'm pulling Bel Air. Get your hands around. Absolutely right. Because in that story, we also understood that sometimes you have to take family members with kids or whatever and move them where there's more stability. These became some of the things that we've abandoned. Right? Because we start buying into the notion of the belief system that our family is a silo separate from the other family, which is a silo. That's why we got work to do on some of the family trees, because of the silos that we created. You all with me?
Yes.
So we recognize that in terms of what those things are. Now something happened in the 80s when all this great work came on. Then when finally Alvin Poussart was the technical assistant when this great show came out, which is one of the best shows ever created, but something happened which is another carryover from our enslavement. I call it's what the scholar called post-traumatic slave syndrome. What happened is we struggled with the Cosby Show. Now what are some of the things we heard? What did we say about the Cosby Show? Black people don't live like this for real. What else did you hear?
A mama can't be a lawyer and a dad can't be a doctor.
Absolute. What else did you hear about it? What did you hear about this show?
Just that it wasn't a real show, and
Yeah, black friends are.
You know, and we laugh. Do you know, if you all think about this concept, what you saw there was a healthy, functioning, successful black family. But because we have been programmed and made to believe that our dysfunction, where it exists, is a norm, that when we saw functionalism occurring, where the father problem solved without the rod, well, the mother came home from work because the mama was an attorney and the daddy was a doctor, we refused to accept. We actually rejected health. You all with me?
Yes.
And so this was the center of a great debate. That's a carryover from the impact of our enslavement when we were taught to hate one another and to despise a family that has really made it possible for us to survive from generation to generation. All of these elements become critical in what we do. But yet, here's what I come to understand. We have families. We have trees, family trees that exist. So, part of your assignment, your first part of your homework assignment, was to work on your family tree. Right? As uncomfortable as it is, I need you to be the social scientist and ask the uncomfortable questions to your cousins. And I'm going to tell you, I've worked in this and I've dealt with someone who said, my father doesn't even know I exist. I've worked with someone to say, you know what? I was a child outside of marriage. That family rejects me. And I hear all those which are emotionally damaging and draining realities, but it still doesn't change the reality that it is what it is. You got to reconnect the stem on the tree. So part of that, not only do we identify the name to who we are, we have to then begin the work of, guess what? Looking at and understanding the relationships of these families and how they were constructed. So we have something called the genealogram, which is what we do. Now watch this. I'm going to show you all something. Usually in your book, you'll see these symbols here, where squares represent men and circles represent women. You'll see that when you have lines joining like that, when they're solid lines, that means the two people were married. Right? When you see a dotted line, which means that they were not married. Right? They may have been living together. And when you see a solid line with a single hash, that means that they were separated. And so therefore, when you see a solid line with two hashes, what? Divorced. Now a couple other symbols I want you all to look at too. When you begin to ask your family questions, I want you to understand the squares represent death. Right now we got question marks in areas that we don't know. Triangles represent pregnancy. Any shape that's cut in half for solid is abuse. And when it's hashtag like that, it means it's suspected abuse. We're just going to take those simple symbols There are some others up there too, but we're going to take those simple symbols here and we're going to construct a story, right? Imagine this is someone I know from a workshop, and I sat down with him and we put this information together. And now you're getting ready to see how this young guy, and I'm going to call him Jesse, how his family was formed. First of all, there was his father before Jesse was born. There's a man, are they married?
No.
And they have what?
One child.
Which is a what?
Oh,
A daughter, right? So, but yet, he has been married to this woman for how long? 20 years. So that means that when they got married, he had a child the same year they got married. Y'all with me? So he has an 18-year-old and he has a 14-year-old. So he's 20 with an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old. So this is the relationship that existed. Everything was going fine and well with this family. But yet, something became suspicious and other things issues began to emerge. Because Daddy did something. What did Daddy do? Yes. And what happened from that affair? He had a son, absolutely. And when did he have that affair? How old is that son?
In the third, fifth year of his marriage.
Whoa! Yes, in between those two. Y'all with me? So what do you think that did to the marriage? They're separated. Yeah, so you have a strange family where they're separated, but even in the midst of their separation, guess what happened? They still had another child. They wasn't too separated, was it? Right. Well, you know, that happens in our family sometimes, every once in a while. Y'all understand that, right? But yet, there they are in the midst of their strain. They've had another child, and they're separated. Mama's still struggling in this separation, but they done moved on. But Mama done did something. What?
And stepped out.
Oh, shoot. And what happened from that affair?
She didn't have a little girl. No?
She had one child. So what do you think happened to the marriage?
They definitely separated.
Absolutely, a divorce. Absolutely. So you split the cape up. You see the ages. We speeded up 5 more years. So now 5 years later, what's happening with this family? We put the ages back in place. And what happens with this family? We see now Daddy got what? Yes, a substance abuse issue. Absolutely. But not only Daddy got a substance abuse issue, his son may have a substance abuse issue. Y'all see it? Watch the story unfold. Remember that oldest daughter over there? What happened with her?
She got a son. She got 2 sons. 2 children out of wedlock.
Yes, out of wedlock. Yes, you see the story unfolding? What happens here affects there. What about that other son? What happened there? He got married and had what?
2 twins.
Yes, he had twins. Absolutely. And then, ultimately, what happened here?
Separated.
Absolutely. Now we got that daughter that had what?
She
She
pregnant.
done got pregnant. Right? And remember that other mother? She got what? Mental health issues. So here's the reality of this family that you see here before us. And imagine the 15-year-old who helped me put this together regarding his family. This is the restoration. We began by acknowledging, you all, it is what it is. Some people don't like to talk about it, but there's a thing called radical acceptance. You know what radical acceptance is? It's when you give up and you hand it and say, you know what? It is what it is. I am one of 23 children. I'm 23. Really one of 22. It's 22 of us all together. I have 21 brothers and sisters.
A lot of names to remember.
Huh?
It's a lot of names to remember.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I got a sister who's getting ready to graduate. But here's the beautiful part about when we look at these realities here, that when you work to function and make these families function the way they should, like my family, we all grew up knowing each other. We all grew up with a relationship. So we have to do a lot of restoration observation work. So part of your assignment is that when you look at those images, begin to ask the questions and begin to explore the relationships. You all with me? There's a lot to be lessons learned when you start asking these questions and connecting these relationships. You're going to learn, like we learned in this room, some family patterns. You're going to learn some new discoveries. You're going to discover some new sisters or brothers or uncles or the sister that nobody wanted to talk about. You're going to learn all these things here. You need them because it's bigger than you. It's what you have the obligation of passing on to the next generation. You all with me? Step-parents, interviews, you have to ask difficult questions. Now I'm going to tell you why you have to do this, and I'm going to tell you why it becomes so difficult. Because we have a reality before us. This stuff is so hard. And when it does happen, it can have a great impact. So I'm going to show you the first video of what pain looks like from a video clip.
Sit down. Hey.
In this scenario, in this clip here, Uncle Phil from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is dealing with Will Smith's father, who's come back into Will's life, and now his father, no sooner than he came, is about to leave. So watch what happens here.
Sit down. I got time for a lecture. I said sit down, Lou. You know, Will was doing just fine until you showed up. But now that you're back, you have responsibilities to him. Look, we're still going to take the trip. Oh, bull! Bull! Will is not a coat that you hang in the closet, then pick it up when you're ready to wear it. His life goes on. He's not supposed to be here for you. You're supposed to be here for him. You get off my back. You think I blocked this? It just happened. Now, when Will was a baby, I was scared of all the crap, all right? Got it? Because I've been there. But I didn't run out on my family. I was there every day for them, because that's what a man does. Fine, Philip. You win. You the man. You a better man than me. You happy? Now, you gonna tell Will or not? I'm not gonna do your dirty work for you. Fine. I'll call him from the road. Yeah, then why don't you do that? Yeah, I'll do it. Danielle! What's up? Will, I'm glad you're here. Some business came up I gotta handle. So we're gonna have to put our trip on hold. You understand? Yeah, that's cool. Just for a couple of weeks. I understand. Yeah. Maybe a little longer. Yeah, whatever. Look, I'll call you next week and we'll iron out the details. Okay? Yeah. It was great seeing you, son. You too, Lou. Yeah, I'm sorry, Will. You know, actually, this works out better for me. You know, the Slimmies of summer come to class right next to nothing, you know? Well, it's all right to be angry. Hey, well, why should I be mad? I'm saying, at least he said goodbye this time. I just wish I hadn't wasted my money buying this stupid present. I'm sorry. You know, if there was something that I... Hey, you know what? You ain't got to do nothing. You know, ain't like I'm still 5 years old, you know? Ain't like I'm going to be sitting up every night asking my mom, when's Daddy coming home, you know? Who needs him? Hey, he wasn't there to teach me how to shoot my first basket, but I learned, didn't I? Hey, I got pretty damn good at it too, didn't I, Phil? Got through my first day without him, right? I learned how to drive, I learned how to shave, I learned how to fight without him. I had 14 great birthdays without him. He never even sent me a damn card. To hell with him! I need him then and I don't need him now. Well. Nah, you know what, Uncle Phil? I'm gonna get through college without him. I'm gonna get a great job without him. I'm gonna marry me a beautiful honey, and I'm having me a whole bunch of kids. I'm gonna be a better father than he ever was. And I sure as hell don't need him for that, because ain't a damn thing he can ever teach me about how to love my kids.
What you all think about that clip?
Wow. The fact that the relationship was a cut-off relationship deeply hurt him. And then for him to come back into his life, and without the benefit of communicating with one another, understanding each other.
Yes.
It just exacerbated the issue.
Absolutely. It's one of the great challenges when we look at some of the roadblocks of forming meaningful relationships. One of the things that we recognize, I have to tell men sometimes, that it is better that you stay completely out of your child's life than to enter it and leave. Than to enter it and leave, because you do more damage. And here's the problem about that damage. That child who's been damaged grows up to damage. And then when he has damaged, then he produces someone who is damaged. Because hurt people hurt people. And so just as we can trace unhealthy patterns, we can also trace healthy patterns. So this is what the work in the world around restoration looks like. And this is why we constantly push to make these elements happen. Now that we've looked at the genealogy, now that we've talked a little bit about history, now that we've even had a conversation about some of the images that we see kind of played out, let's have a quick discussion in the restoration piece about our relationships. Now here's one of the things I discovered too. When we're talking about restoring a family or making a modern family work, I get to tell you it all begins with the foundation, the starting point concerning how two people formed and how that relationship was established. And what we recognize is that there's a saying, don't be like that foolish man that built his house upon the sand. So that means certainly that if your house, if the foundation of your house is shaky, it doesn't matter how well you build it up, how beautiful it is, meaning the front or the public image that you give. It doesn't matter how successful you've done or what you've accomplished. Your house is built on sand, so eventually it will crumble. So restoration, some restoration will never have to be an issue if the foundation in the first place was established. Does that make sense? And that a lot of that has to do with our relationships. But what we see that has happened in 2015 is this. We've come to understand that the notion of dating and relating and relationships have changed over time. There was a time that the primary purpose of courting was to strengthen and build a relationship, which ultimately led to marriage. So therefore, it was very common at a certain point that a woman would say, what is your intentions? Or the father would say to a young man, what is your intentions with my daughter? Do we have that type of dialogue today where daddy says to a young man, what is your intentions to my daughter?
Yeah, I'll ask that question.
And men in the room, let me ask you this. If a young man came to pick up your daughter, and he blew the horn, bum, bum, what happened?
Nothing.
The door didn't come out.
Right?
Nothing. He'll be sitting there.
So what do you say to your daughter when she gets up and go outside?
Oh, I won't say nothing because she already knows.
Absolutely. That's how times have changed when we talk about values in the dating game. But we don't have fathers in the house as much now to say, you don't leave. Let me tell you something. My oldest daughter, when she was in high school, it's time for her to go to the prom. Y'all see all these different prom date invitations that you've been seeing in the news? Well, this young man came to me to ask for my daughter to take my daughter to the prom. I said, it was cool. I said, but why don't you come and do some community service with me so forth? I took him with me to Let Us Make Man. You all have to understand what Let Us Make Man, every year, months leading up to the conference, we come to the area every weekend When we come to the area every weekend, we're knocking on doors, going to churches, and we're giving people flyers. We're literally walking through the community every weekend. So that meant for the last month and a half, Let Us Make Man has come to Albany, Georgia, every weekend, knocking on doors in the communities, telling people about the workshop. That's what I had the young man do. So after he and I walked about 3 miles in the heat, I said, yeah, you can take my husband. That was a prerequisite. But here's what I've also learned now that my daughter is 21 years old and a junior in college. My greatest accomplishment is that I've taught her with my wife the spirit of discernment. Because daddy can't always come and rescue his daughter. But if she's developed the ability to discern, that means that she doesn't need daddy to say that Negro ain't no good for you. She's been able to discern that. But the reality is, our children don't learn from what we teach them. They learn from what they see. So when I tell people that I've been with my wife 25 years, we've been married 22, but we've been together 25 years, take those down. Can I tell you, when we've been together 25 years, I've never raised my voice at my wife. I've never cursed or called my wife out of her name. I call this the Bill Cosby experience. People don't believe it. It's not real. Families don't do that. Couples don't function that way. Every once in a while, it just gonna get hot. You're gonna call your wife a bitch. Every once in a while, you're gonna get mad at him and you're gonna say, what the F you doing? You know, but guess what? No. That's what healthy families and healthy relationships are about. And when those two components are inside of a marriage, it results in a healthy marriage. But take a look at what's happened now. People have moved towards how they date now. Most people just doing it for different partners. We have people who do it who seek to be romantically involved. And we still have a few people that are yet marriage-minded. These are some of the things that we see, but one of the challenges we recognize that every once in a while, you're on the wrong page. He think you at one place, and you somewhere else. So in this image right here, he didn't pop the question. He feeling good about himself. They got her a wonderful ring, and what did she say? Oh, this is more serious than I thought. Right? That meant that he didn't say he thought they were somewhere different from where she was. You know why? Because there's a difference between, watch this, having expectations and setting expectations. Oftentimes, the mistake happens in relationships is because you have expectations. I have an expectation that you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, but you never said it. What I mean by set mean, I never said, you know, I expect you to cook every day. Now, guess what? If I enter a relationship expecting, having the expectation that as the wife, you're going to cook dinner every day, and then all of a sudden you stop cooking dinner, and I'm mad, and I'm saying, you're my wife, guess what? The problem is, you had that expectation, but you never said it, meaning you never communicated it. One of the biggest challenges that happen in relationships is that we don't talk. We think simply because we've been together so long that we can answer for each other. Oh, I already know what I've been with you, I already know. You don't. So what we recognize in our journey is that something has happened over time. We began to glorify some of the most unhealthy aspects of relationships. And every once in a while, as an African community, we have to rise up against media and force them to take some sickness off the air. So they not only produced this show, but there were several pilots that had come out. But they never put out one. This notion of a man with several baby mamas. And they were going to glorify the challenges that in which it is logistically impossible to care for all those different children. They were going to glorify this. But as an African people and as an African American community, we rose up and demanded that it be taken off the air. So our relationship work is very critical, and we've seen these things, how they've changed over time. But now the media's reached the point where it's attacking black women. we're seeing these negative images play out of angry black women. That's really the negative images of our young black males and our black women. The black males are thugs and roughneck, and our black women now are angry. And then we start glorifying it in some of the biggest shows. Real Housewives of Atlanta. A pathology, sickness, of fighting and bickering. We see this here, the gossip gang. These are our negative images. And what's even more amazing, even among our talented 10, they say these are medical doctors. Guess what? Let's do a show of the sickness of the wives and the pathology of the wives of medical doctors. And we're going to call it what? Married to Medicine. And then let's get the women to act a fool.
Is that Atlanta? Yeah.
Yeah. So here's our challenge of why we must be ever so vigilant in engaging and challenging the media to not let it shape our views of our women. But something has happened. Y'all with me? How are we doing? We okay? Something has happened here in terms of, because there is no common movement in relationships, so something has now happened. We're teaching our boys right now, you have to have as much sex as possible. As a matter of fact, in high school, if you've done that and you got that label, you looked upon as what? Cool. The athletes, that's just what we do. And so we understand that in order to get this, we got to have this. Now, y'all don't see no GPAs on there. Y'all don't see no magnet program on there, right? Y'all don't see no top SAT scores, right? 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 Because, you know, he can have a high GPA, but he ain't getting that with a high GPA. This is how we've trained. So the boys now began to do this. So you have some young men who are living in good families who are selling drugs. It's nothing out of necessity, but simply to be able to have the power and the money, because society has told them to get this, you got to have that. So on the flip side, we see this in society where we're telling women, if you're going to date a man, guess what? You got to have the money, and guess what? Here's the bait. So for the men to get the women, here's the bait. For the women to get the men, here's the bait. And so this is how the dynamic and the crisis in black sexual politics plays out. We start promoting those issues. So let me ask you all, what comes first? Mating, dating, or relating?
Relating.
And then what?
Dating.
And then what?
Dating.
How do y'all think it really goes?
Mating.
Dating. Relating.
You know, I love it. You know, I love asking that question, especially since I've already got the stickers from y'all. Because you all in your high moral precepts, you tell me the truth and then you lie to me on the same paper. I think it's relating, dating, and mating, and I think this is how it should go. But you know, this is not what we see. What do we really see?
Mating.
You see
Dating. Mating, dating, and no relating.
Mating, dating, and no relating. We see mating, dating, and no relating. Now, the most amazing thing about this situation is that when we begin to look at your responses, that's why I love collecting the responses and we get them early, because then once we get to this far, we're able to look at some certain things. We know we have some older people in the room. We know a lot of y'all have 2 to 4 brothers and sisters. We also know that some of you were never married and married, but guess what? When I ask you some questions about your parents, this is what I always love. So tell me about your parents' marital status. They were married, only one never married. Then we asked, how would you describe the parents' relationship? You said it's mostly positive. And said, do you want a relationship like your parents? And then guess what? And you say no. So the interesting thing when we raise the question, do you want your parents' relationship is positive, but you want one like them? Heck no. We always see that incongruence. That you're going to identify it as mostly positive, but you don't want a relationship like them. So what are we missing there?
I can give you an example.
Okay.
Because that was me. My mother and father were married. mostly positive, but I wouldn't want a relationship like him because my father battled alcoholism.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I'm not an alcoholic.
Right.
So that's why I won't want that. I want that side of it.
Beautiful, beautiful. And yes, sir.
Doc, it's interesting because I have the same thing. My parents actually were married when I was born, but they ended up getting divorced. I actually, from that particular perspective, I wouldn't mind, once I got divorced, I would have loved to have had a relationship like my parents. And I talk about it on Facebook a lot, that even though my parents were divorced, neither of them was ever a single parent. They didn't get into the bickering and the fighting. They raised me together. Even though they were no longer together. My mom remarried, my dad never did, but he had, other relationships and stuff.
Right.
So from that perspective, I thought my parents' relationship was positive once they realized that they didn't work together.
Right. So, the most amazing thing is that we see that, and every time I do this activity, and I did this activity in a room full of over 100 people, I had some much smaller dots. And everywhere I go, you see that dichotomy like that. And what's in between them actually is the stories like that. Is that there is something that they stay together because we have, what do? We give value to the numeric number. My parents have been together for 30 years. Yeah, but what we don't say is, and then my daddy beat the hell out of my mom for 15 of those years. But they stayed together, right? Because somebody has taught us, we get lost sometimes in some Africanisms that we believe, but they stayed together. So as a therapist, as someone who works with men who commit violence against women on a daily basis, one of the common things when I deal with men who've been arrested and women who've been arrested, I'll say, why are you still with them? Because we love each other. So y'all love each other to death. I said, yeah, no, that's what's going to happen. Why y'all going to kill each other? Right? So every time I see a situation where a man killed himself and the wife and the children, I get to tell y'all that somewhere in this journey, I'm going to tell you all there's a whole lot of stuff that if you only knew in post-conception. I talk in codes because I create this diagram because there's always kids in the room. So I'm just saying in this diagram is that you have the pre and you have the post. Y'all with me? Mm-hmm. All right. So what happens is, what we realize is one of the inhibitors of establishing a foundation or strong family is that there's some work that you need to do for the prenuptials. There's some fundamental stuff that you need to know. Beyond how she walks.
Really?
Beyond that figure. Beyond his swag. Beyond his wallet. Beyond his athleticism. I'm going to tell you, you need to know something about his or her behavior in the prenup or the pre-relationship or the pre-marriage. Something about their attitudes, their values. Guess what? You need to know something about the family background. Watch this, before you get emotionally invested. Because what happens is our foundation is hindered because when we get emotionally invested, that means in your mind you said, I'm in too deep now. So you start finding out this stuff once you get so deep into the relationship. Guess what? You need to know if there are mental health issues in his family.
DNA.
Or her family. You need to know that. Why? Because everything is grits and gravy on Monday, and then on Wednesday, she hates you and hates the universe, and then on Friday, she back grits and gravy and don't know what you're talking about. It might have some bipolar stuff you don't even know. But she sure is fine. And so we start forgiving some stuff. Right? So after the conception, the child has come around, then my baby mama crazy. Right? So sitting in my office, one day I had a man coming in because the child in school been bad, and I got the mother finally, both were required to come to me, and the father's sitting there and he's saying, I don't care what you say, Dr. Wayne, my child mama, my baby mama is crazy. I don't care, Dr. Wayne, she's crazy. Or family crazy, everybody is crazy. The father, I'm like, what you're engaged in right now is a rigorous post-nut analysis right now. And everything you identify pre-existed.
Yes, sir.
So your post-nut epiphany right now is what you're experiencing right now. But my baby mama crazy. She crazy. Then she said, well, he a fool. He an outright fool. His daddy's a fool. His daddy wasn't none. His granddaddy, you know where? It go all, one woman told me, his daddy, them men in his family ain't been, we go all the way back to slavery. I'm like, back to slavery? You did research on the triflingness of these men? You know, I got to sit to humor. But she said, no, but the daddy is a fool. My child's father's a cruel. And he said, she crazy. And he fool. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? He crazy and you a fool. Y'all got together and produced a child, and now that's what the teacher got to deal with in her classroom, a crazy fool.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Y'all with me?
Oh, yes.
So we saying you need to understand the family history and the relationship. You know what? You even have to understand when you're building the foundation of a healthy relationship, even how you deal with crisis. Because if your family history says when there's a crisis, I need to be alone and by myself, and her family history when there's a crisis says everybody come together, you know what happens when a crisis comes, and here you are, and then next thing you know, she'd have brought the whole damn family over? You're like, what the hell everybody doing here? Well, we going through some, but ain't that, you see? Because even within the context of that, you need to understand how you manage crises. You know what I mean? Huh?
It should be offered.
Absolutely. This is only a partial of my list. All my list of things I'm saying, guess what? I'm telling women now, $12. Do a criminal background check on him. On the second date.
Second date? You can't get a date number 5?
No, second date, do a criminal background check. Pay the $12. Do the national one, not just the local one, because you need to know if he done acted a fool in California. Yes.
And there's also a website you can use now called Zaba Search.
Oh, I use Zaba Search on a database?
There you go. Pull up every address.
Absolutely. So my point is that you need to understand this stuff so that you don't engage in a, I'm going to help y'all, in a rigorous post-nut analysis.
This is too late.
Right?
That's the
or when it just dawned on you, that's called a post-nut epiphany. Are y'all with me? Yes. So I'm simply saying you've got to understand the pre versus the post. And if you do that, if you understand this, because guess what? I'm not saying if there's mental health issues, Brian. I'm simply saying if there's mental health issues, then as a family, y'all know how to work with it. But guess what? All these things go towards building a strong family. We understand it. But we don't. And this is why we talk about the breakdown. These are the stages of relationships. Take a look at this. Talking, going on dates, dating exclusively. Now, let me show y'all what happens when you have expectations versus set expectations, and people tend to think we're different places. Here you are, y'all been talking on the phone, then y'all go on a date. Now, you don't went on a date, one date, and then the next week, he sees you out with another man, and he go, oh man, see this here, she ain't, and what he gonna do? He gonna start labeling her.
She ain't loyal.
She ain't loyal, she right? And what's the problem with it? It's the second date.
No expectations, no obligation.
Absolutely, or the same thing. If she sees him out with, you know what, he home. But I'm simply saying in your journey, I'm being very simple to say, if y'all talking, have a conversation. When you move to the next stage, you have to ask, so are we dating now? I mean, are we boyfriend and girlfriend, but are we, so this is what we're doing, we're dating. But at some point, when you get to stage 3, you have to articulate it. Are we dating exclusively? Or do you prefer emotionally to say it just feels like I'm the only one? There's a big difference between feeling like you're the only one and being the only one. Y'all with me? So if you hear, and if you hear and she there's an incongruence. There's a disconnect. This is where hearts get broken. So when we get to the mating, dating, and relating, what do you think happens if you're dating here? I mean, if you're mating here. You know nothing. So we talk about dating, being in a relationship, engagement, and what happens during the engagement process. So when I do work with couples around premarital counseling, I'm simply saying you have 3 transformations that take place during the engagement phase. First of all, you know how long you have a wedding date set. So I got a universal argument that says you're not really engaged until a wedding date is set. If you don't set a wedding date, you ain't engaged. And it has nothing to do with the fact that society taught you to get on one knee and pop it up a ring and say, "Will you marry me?" I'm simply saying that it's solidified when a wedding date is set. Why? Because you're working toward it. Yes, sir.
Do you use the family bricks for your premarital?
Sometimes, some of it, yes. And then there's a whole other series of stuff because I've been researching for years, and I really have some African-centered stuff that I do as well with couples too. So, and part of that work is because we have 2 unions coming together, I work with them, and part of that is that they develop what's called a coat of arms. That means, you know, the shields that symbolizes a family. So we do some work in terms of what goes inside that coat of arms. It's going to be symbolic of that family, of those 2 unions coming together.
In conjunction.
Yes, absolutely. So there's a whole... Okay, wow, okay. Well, you'll see that's going to make a little sense to you then. So take a look at this. We talk about the psychological training, right? That means that you have to begin by getting the family, watch this, your immediate family. Your immediate family to begin to articulate and conceptualize each other as one. So, here's what I'm saying to the men sometimes. I say, you know, historically, you've given your sister some money. Your sister calls, says she needs some money, and if your sister needed it, it happened. But once you engage and you begin the process, you have to begin practicing by saying, let me check with my fiance as we kind of prepare. Now, guess what's so weird about that? And before those family members have been psychologically transformed, they're going to look at you and say, well, what you need to talk to her about? Why do I need to ask you? Why do you need to ask her? So I'm telling you, you got to train. If you have not successfully trained the family, and men, if you've not successfully trained your boys, and women, if you've not successfully trained your, then all these elements are going to be challenging as you establish your initial foundation. Y'all with me? So watch this. Family recognition, getting the family right. Family become 2. You need to begin to do more things to understand. And guess what? The self and the form on the couple, guess what? I tell people, this is no longer your girl, your girlfriend, your woman. I say once you become engaged, those are insulting terms. It is my fiance. And the fiance is the temporary word so you can practice the new language.
Is that like a technical word or something like that? Does it have to be that way?
Huh?
Does it have to be that way?
In terms of fiance?
Well, yes. I mean, you can't no longer use the other.
Right.
So
old things are passed away. And I'm arguing it is your fiance.
That's like a psychological shift.
You can't say
A
old
cognitive
old lady.
shift.
Absolutely. No. Absolutely. So within the realm of cognitive behavior therapy and the whole cognitive piece, we're simply saying that there has to be a paradigm shift in your thinking and within the context of your processing. So how you begin to understand you 2 from 2 to 1.
just ask her.
Oh, that's it. Right? So we talked about, and then guess what? It's at this stage that you begin to discuss some of these elements. You all with me? And so the challenge that we run into is a lot of times the little r will masquerade as the big M. The little r masquerades at the big M. What that means is, what happens when you have people who've been together, living together for 5, 6, 7 years, then they get married, and then 2 months later they got a divorce?
She changed, man.
Huh?
She changed.
No! See, what has happened that you didn't realize is the expectations have changed. And so when we move through, we talk about there's some fundamental difference between the little r and the big M. Right? I had a couple I was working with, and it was a gay couple, 2 women, and they got together, and she, and they went and bought some furniture together, and her credit was bad, and her credit was good, so she bought it, and they gave her the money, and I'm like, why are you all playing married? That's not what you do when you are engaged with someone. Because there's some legal distinctions as well. Does that make sense to you all? So we talk about the little R financial management. When it's just you two, you're not married, your money is your marriage. But when you get married, it's your money. Even if you don't see it that way, the IRS is going to conceptualize it that way. Commitment, being faithful is a verbal agreement or a promise. So when someone cheats, they cheat. But when you're married, it's called adultery, and there are some legal consequences that come with that part. Parenting. When you have a child born out of wedlock in the state of Georgia, and I don't care how tight you are, the father has no legal rights to the child. Even if he signed the birth certificate, the child has his last name, the father's established the paternity, the father's paying child support, they live together, or the father has no earthly idea what the mother is. In the state of Georgia, when you have a child born out of wedlock, the father has no rights. So if something would have happened to the mother and the mother were to die, the father does not automatically get his child. It becomes the state in the best interest of the court. So there are some specific things that I work with men in terms of what you need to do to establish. That means to make your relationship with your child as if the child were born in union. So there's a big difference in the little R and the big M. So many men who come to me that even have some actual physical altercations involved because I'm going to see my child, and I'm like, you got all that emotion, but you're not legally the father. You have to establish legitimation. Legitimation allows for the father to inherit from the child and the child to inherit from the father. Legitimation allows for the child's last name to be converted to the father's last name, and a brand new birth certificate is issued. Legitimation is what is required in order for a father to then seek visitation rights. You have to understand the only way a father can have any legal right to be actually, hear me, physically involved in the life of his child is that he must, hear me, sue the mother in order, and within the context of suing the mother, he must outline the terms of the visit. So if he did not put on there attending extracurricular activities, then he can't attend extracurricular. Y'all with me? Yes. So if I ain't married,
is that even,
you ain't got yourself caught up in all of what's that?
Even if you're, I guess you're paying for support of.
Yes. Go ahead, you ask me, because you right now, I'm dropping sledgehammers right about now. So any scenario you gonna give me, I'm gonna say no. Go ahead.
So even if you've had a child out of wedlock, your old lady, your fiance, your girlfriend.
Go ahead.
You have no rights, even if you pay support.
No.
She done took you to court. The court didn't see that you.
No, she doesn't have to take you to court.
I mean, but you in the system. Let me phrase it like that. You in the system. You in Georgia.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay. All right.
Isn't that heavy? That's deep, huh?
It is interesting.
And guess what? Watch this, y'all. You know what? Because people say, man, where that all come from? Y'all ready for this? The beginning of the slide, I was talking about what period of time? Slavery. Yeah. These laws are that old. They actually have their law. Legitimation has the law originates out of the real estate portion of property. Sure, so that meant that when a father, when the enslaver had a child by the enslaved black woman, he would have the option of whether or not he wanted to acknowledge that child that was born out of wedlock. And so if he chose to acknowledge that child that was born out of wedlock, then he, the enslaver, or as you all have heard the term master, would then turn around and say, I'm going to make this child legitimate. So these laws go all the way back to slavery. They just haven't been changed.
Well, it makes perfect sense if you're a piece of property, but I think we've got beyond that.
You can watch this, and I'm just saying this because of my passion, right? I'm just saying this because of my passion, it's not directly towards you. Right now, let me tell you what's happening. You feel some type of way.
I just find it interesting.
No, that's deeper than incident. It's called playing married.
Yeah, and they are working on a bill that will change that once the father signs the birth certificate at birth, then that will legitimize.
Yes, and they established, that's called in-hospital paternity, and legitimation established, and every year there's an attempt to separate those two again. But even if you've legitimated your child, you still do not have the legal right to be physically involved with the child because you have to sue the mother.
That's what I was about to ask. So wait, so what you're, and this is something from, I guess, again,
right now he's going through the am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah, exactly. And this is exactly what I'm trying to figure out. So you're saying that if a man has either been forced to pay child support, Right. If you've already been say he wasn't, but he's been
Doesn't have any rights.
forced to pay child support. So he's gone through the system and is forced to pay child support. He still has no rights?
No.
That's like crazy. I
No,
hope y'all
that's
hearing
all-
that. This is streaming live, so I just want to make sure people
That's
heard
called
that.
playing married. That's why I need, and see, here's what's so exciting. When you look at all the attorneys that we have here in Let Us Make Man, and you look at the Bodie McKnight law firm in Atlanta, and Attorney McKnight and the work that she does around helping families establish that connection. I'm telling you, all these things are serious. But it's not permanent. It's just some things that you have to do. So, within the restoration movement, when we start talking about establishing a healthy, firm foundation of restoring the family or establishing a strong foundation of a healthy family, I'm going to tell you that I've identified 7 elements of a successful marriage. What are those elements? We take a look at them. Spirituality, tolerance, managing crisis, commitment, understanding, evenly yoked in love. What does that look like? I'm telling you, within the work that I do, when we break these down into these little sessions, I'm saying love, genuine love for each other and not each other's things. This is a contemporary look. We fall in love with each other's things. And so what happens when you lose those things? Then the marriage begins to crumble. I've learned to be a base and I've learned to be a bound. Number 2, being evenly yoked. Guess what? Not so much in education and finances, but similar values and beliefs. You have to be evenly yoked.
But do most people understand what that term means?
Evenly yoked?
Yes.
I've operationalized it within this term. I'm saying in terms of the values, but no, they don't. That's because evenly yoked means that we've conceptualized it to be connected to your status. I got a PhD, you got a PhD. I drive a Benz, you need to drive a Benz or a BMW. It's the things. I got a 6-figure, you need a 6-figure. All those things that once you've identified it within the context of being evenly yoked, all those things that are just identified right there can be gone with a single accident, within a single merge, with a single crash in the stock market. Y'all with me? Also, understanding requires understanding your partner's position and not projecting your beliefs or values about your partner's position. Baby, you know what? I already know. That's what we do. I already know what he's thinking about. One of the challenges, I was telling a guy earlier today, I said, a lot of times when there are differences or when someone's doing something, I said, this is real dichotomous. But this is what I believe. Either someone does something from out of a place of goodness or out of a place of evil. So if you are conceptualizing, this goes back to the cognitive process right now. If you're conceptualizing that, she did that on purpose. That means that if you believe that someone's done something to hurt or disorient or cause a problem, and they did it on purpose, you're actually conceptualizing that they did that out of a place of evilness. And then we start giving the evil label, she being a B, he's being an A. So one of the challenges why we focus on the cognitive process so much is because when there are incidences, right? This is this thing called dialectical behavior process. When there are incidences that occur going up, then we have to take a look at your values and your beliefs and your perceptions. Because the values and beliefs concerning that incident is going to impact your emotions, how you feel about it. And based on how you're feeling about it, your emotions are going to start impacting your values and beliefs even more. And those things start going back and forth until there's an incident. So therefore, because I recognize that, what I'm saying in this context, I'm saying that I have to explore your values and your beliefs and your perceptions, because however you begin to conceptualize and frame that stuff is going to dictate your emotions associated with it and the behavior that you engage following. Y'all with me? How we doing, okay? Keep it moving. Also, commitment. Wedding vows are real, for rich or poor, in sickness and in health. And guess what I'm going to tell you? These are really phases and stages of a marriage. And we know that because you said to death do us part.
Or sooner.
Or sooner. Right? We also recognize managing crisis. Support communication during crisis will strengthen marriage. Oftentimes when I'm working with couples, part of what happens in my questioning is I'm trying to assess whether or not they've had a crisis yet. Whether or not they've experienced a crisis yet. Why? Because that's going to provide some new knowledge for me, but I guarantee you it's provided some new knowledge for them as a couple. So I need to understand how y'all deal with crisis, how your family deals with crisis. We all know that that's manifested in, when folks are falling out at the funeral, and then after they fall at the funeral, then everybody at the deceased person's house looking through the insurance paperwork, especially when the grandmama's dying. The notion of we all have to come together for the reading of the will, that's not how some of us do it. So we got to see how crisis, at the funeral you always got somebody, let me go, I'm sorry, Mama, I'm sorry for everything. You'd be like, get up. Years ago, my sister was telling my cousin, Dee, get up, she all over the casket, Grandma, I'm sorry for everything. We have to understand that. How they manage crisis. And most importantly to me is tolerance. Isn't that a good picture of tolerance? You've got to have it. And tolerance within the context of longevity. So when I say I've gone 25 years and I've never cussed at my wife, I've never called her out of her name. That's nothing magnificent. It's a common way of life. Tolerance. Tolerance changes because when you first start dating, it was so cute how my baby, he'd be in a rush, and he just, you're telling your friends, my baby, he worked so hard, he'd be so in a rush, he'd jump out the shower and leave his drawers on the floor. I gotta pick him up, it's so cute. 5 years later, you know what? This right here, I ain't touching it. Y'all see how that changed?
And Doc, I think the thing though, and I think you just made the point, but like I said, making it plain for people, it's not that you guys don't have disagreements,
right,
and that you don't argue,
right,
but you pay attention to how you do it.
Absolutely. I said I've never called her out her name.
Right.
Right? But believe me, there was a whole lot of things that I do as now, 25 years later, my wife says, that's what you whites do. To my man, that's all y'all do. So my sister, my wife, and all my sister-in-laws get together, me and my brothers sometimes be like, okay, what they talking about? Because some stuff just ain't so cute no more. So you have to pay attention to it. I'm not getting that. I got all daughters in the house, right? So I have that same type of feeling. I have to call my wife, somebody come, the curlers and all that. I don't have no hair, so that ain't my hair. You see how that works? Absolutely, it's beautiful over time. But that's how you make the modern family work. Y'all with me? So sometimes you gotta laugh at it. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna say spirituality, shared beliefs and values are critical. So when you have those elements of that pyramid together, as you all begin to move down that journey, you're going to constantly, because it's maintenance, you're going to constantly work and understand love. And all these images and these road signs in your journey of marriage, I'm going to tell you, are going to constantly come before you on that journey. And if you're focusing and paying attention to it, I can tell you, they're going to serve as reminders. But if you stay focused on that one goal all the way on down the road, you're going to see it. And it will let you know that all those elements are absolutely critical in the restoration movement. You all with me? So I'm a firm believer in all these pieces here. I'm absolutely a believer in it. I also understand that, what time is it?
4:11.
4:10. So, what time are we supposed to end? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not even sure actually.
So here's what we recognize towards the end in this. I'm going to tell you, even within the context of divorces and breaking up, I'm simply saying, as you have shared, is that co-parenting and all these things are healthy. And we have to do a lot of work sometimes with helping children know that it's not your fault. You're powerless. And the parents have to be reminded as well within the context But sometimes it gets so hard and so heavy that we start beginning to develop our own narrative. And so then you see women sometimes when it gets so bad and they start telling all their friends and they have that dialogue, well, I don't need a man. And now next thing you know, the daughter's saying, I don't even want a man. And next thing you know, then that little son was saying, well, hell, and I don't want to be a man.
That is what we have.
So we have to be careful about the language and the dialogue that we share and spend within our families. Co-parenting is what we end up with. And so I'm going to leave you all with this. Deal with the here and now as co-parents. You have to understand, no issues dumping. I'm telling people, within a word, take responsibility of your own feelings. Own your own stuff. I'm also going to say, be direct and honest about your feelings when you communicate. You're not together, but again, having expectation, saying how I feel. So if I feel hurt, here's the biggest problem with men. All of our emotions are manifested in variations of anger. Because men don't always know how to say, I'm hurt, I'm scared, I'm disappointed, I'm sad, I feel left out. So what we do is we get hard, we get mad, we get madder. But we have to understand some of those pieces. Learning how to listen and trying to understand the other person's side. The best thing you can do in my work, and it's a whole section that I do around the art of listening. The best thing, if you can become a master listener, man, how powerful you become in your relationship. Just learning how to listen. Learning how to say, how to give it back. Learning how to wait for the person to make a determination of whether or not you truly understand. Because guess what? You can do that. Are you saying this? And then when they say, yes, that's what I'm saying, then you disagree. But I always tell people, don't disagree before you demonstrate that you understand. Let me say that again. Don't disagree before you first demonstrated that you understand. Yes, sir.
Does that mean repeating back stuff that you said that so you can understand?
Within a certain way.
Repeating back.
Remember, out of a place of good or a place of evil. I don't mean parity. I know what you said. You said A, B, C, D, D. Isn't that what you said? No, I said you have to play it back to demonstrate the reason why you're going over it again is because ultimately you're demonstrating your understanding. That's work. You know what the challenge is? And I'm going to close out with this. We sometimes, when our emotions kick in, we don't want to demonstrate understanding because we've concluded our mind to understand is to conceive. So we don't want to demonstrate that we understand because we now believe in that we conceive. You see how the power and control operates? So in closing, I'm saying everybody has a chance, attack the issues and not the person. And I believe that if you all take these journeys in this process, I believe, number one, we will have the ability to restore and to strengthen the family. I believe, number two, it is a prescription on how to make the modern family work. And number three, I absolutely believe that if you do some of this, you can then strengthen or enhance the foundation of your relationship. And so, on behalf of Let Us Make Man, Restoring the Black Family, Evaluation Station, I want to thank you all for taking the time to come to listen to Making the Modern Family Work. And I'm going to close out with a poem. I'm a poet, and I'm going to end with this piece here. It's called Black Child Running Wild. Black child running wild, you better get back home where you belong. Now mama said to her son, Johnny, come straight home. After school, lock the door and never answer the phone. Mama worked 3 jobs and always came home late. Ever since he was 5, fixed his own plate. One day the drug boys made an offer Johnny couldn't refuse. $200 a week he knew his family could use to keep both eyes open for the men in blue. Well, the money got good and Johnny made lots of friends. And 6 months later he was in like Flynn. Now he's wearing new shoes, they got no time for school till undercover picked him up, and now he's singing Julie Blues because he's a black child running wild. You better get back home where you belong. Now little Tina had a secret that she just couldn't keep about her loss of innocence. with Uncle Pete. He was Mama's boyfriend, and she loved him to death, always offering money and giving them help. But Tina knew that Uncle Pete could keep his hands to himself. Now she's 15 years old. Her stomach grows and grows, and Mama's swearing up and down that she did not know. Now she's a black child, running wild. You better get back home where you belong. Now little Dave was a boy who loved his daddy like a toy, the only hero he knew, a Superman without a suit, until one day out of nowhere, Daddy up and flew the coop. Now Mama stayed strong, took little Dave and moved on, but she knew deep down if there was something really wrong. Now Player Dave is a teen, and Daddy's back on the scene, telling him how to live his life and not to be so mean. Dave said, you left me at 2 when I reached my arms out for you. I could not find you at 5 to wipe the tears from my eyes. Then again at the age of 10, I needed you to be my friend. Now that the cover's a Lion King, you want to do the father-son thing? So with disgrace in his face, Dave just turned and walked away to be a black child, running wild. You better get back home where you belong. It takes a village to raise a child that hurt somewhere. Not if the child don't listen and the village don't care about the black child running wild. You better get back home where you belong. Thank you.